Japan is one of the world's most literate and technically advanced nations. It is an East Asian archipelago country made up of 4 primary islands and more than 6,800 others. While most of Japan is covered by mountains and heavily wooded areas, the country's people lead a distinctly urban lifestyle. It is situated in the Northwest Pacific Ocean and is bordered on the west by the Sea of Japan, extending from the Sea of Okhotsk in the north toward the east, China Sea, Philippine Sea, and Taiwan in the south. Japan has been captivating travelers since it first opened up to international trade in 1853. While its many traditions and cultural landmarks persist, Japan is also one of the leading economic and technological centers of the world. Ancient gods and traditional customs sit side by side with cutting-edge technologies and trendy pop culture, and there is always something new to experience on a visit. It is a country with a complex and ancient cultural heritage, yet today it is one of the most advanced countries in technology and innovation since 1950. It gives a great deal of attention to education, and the country is one of the most literate in the world. A distinctive awareness of natural beauty and interest in shape and balance are obvious. Before fully diving in with the topic, let me tell you about the most common phrases that is being used in Japan. Ohaya gozaimasu, which means good morning, konnichiwa, which means hello or good day, and konbanwa, which means good evening.
The Japanese language is spoken by 120 million inhabitants of Japan, Hawaii, and the North and South American mainlands. Japanese is known as a second language by the Chinese and Korean people who lived under Japanese occupation earlier in this century. The Japanese language is divided into 3 categories. First is the native Japanese words. Second is words borrowed from China. Third is words borrowed from Western languages such as English. Japanese has an open syllable sound pattern, so that most syllables end in a vowel. Japanese is traditionally written vertically, with the lines starting from the right side of the page. No verb conjunction, no gender of nouns, no articles. 48 sounds consisting of 5 vowels and 11 consonants. Most of the words in the Japanese language have 2 roots of pronunciation. First is the Chinese and second is the Japanese. Japan's adult literacy level is 99%. Japanese uses 4 ways of addressing people. The first is kun, which means somewhat snobby. Second is chan, used by intimates and children. And the third is universal mode. And the last is sama, is respectful. The main verb comes at the end of the sentence. This can result in the meaning of a long sentence being too hard to grasp. Imagine a sentence in English like a storm system flowed through the central Appalachians into the eastern seaboard with heavy rain Wednesday, causing flooding that blocked roads and drove some people from their homes, and put the words flowed through at the very end of the sentence. Japanese is a member of the Altic language family. So other languages in the Altic family is the Turkish, Mongolia, Manchu, and last is the Korean.
Language policy is what a government does either officially through legislation, court decisions, or policy to determine how languages are used, cultivate language skills needed to meet national priorities, or to establish the rights of individuals or groups to use and maintain languages. Language education policy includes decisions about which languages are to be used as a medium of instruction and or taught in schools, as well as analysis of these policies within their social, ethnic, religious, political, cultural, and economic context. Language is an important part of national culture and self-image. The policies and practices concerning language, whether explicit or implicit, reflect the gist of the times. Official language policy is intertwined with national self-image and the image to be projected to the outside world. Japan's language policies, both foreign language and Japanese language, have always been driven by imperatives ranging from modernization to imperialism to democratization to conservationism. I define language policy in the broader sense that Carroll uses in that it includes any involvement by government or quasi-government bodies in any aspect of language. Language education and promotion of language awareness, the current agenda of the Japanese government, reveals the underlying political, social, and economic concerns of the country. This paper will discuss the past and present foreign language policies and practices in Japan, arguing that the misalignment of policy and practice needs to be considered and corrected. At present, English is taught at the vast majority of schools in Japan. Moreover, an important part of the university entrance exam is an English test. Most official policies and common assumptions equate foreign language with English. This has been the case since the first Ministry of Education was formed. Some schools do not teach another language and some practices are directed at non-English language promotion.
Japan is considered to be a typical monolingual, monocultural nation, although there are opinions to the contrary. The fact that the percentage of foreign residents amounts to just 1.4% of total population does suggest that Japanese are in fact a homogeneous nation. The teaching of foreign languages, especially English in Japan, has been a topic of concern for many years. The Japanese study English, although there were actually 22 languages being taught in Japanese high schools in the year 2000. For 3 years in junior high school, another 3 years in senior high school, and in the case of many people, at least another 2 years in university. So participants in Japanese language programs of the Institute vary greatly in their nationalities, mother tongues, motivation to study the Japanese language, professional goals, and fields of concern. In response to the diverse needs of the program participants, the Institute encourages them to take an initiative in daily studying, helping them with a moderate-sized library and well-equipped self-study room, offering tutoring so that they can achieve their goals more effectively. The national monolingual ideology requires all Japanese citizens to speak Japanese as their first language, despite the considerable population that speaks an indigenous language, such as the Okinawans in the south and the Ainu in the north. So 99.2% of people in Japan have Japanese as their first language. Japan's language planning and policies do not focus on competing languages, but rather on modifying and promoting an existing and well-entrenched asset. So, although not specified as the official language, Japanese is the language spoken by the majority of citizens and is one of the defining factors of Japanese identity. There are still a few lesser spoken languages across the islands, including Amami, Kyukyu, Kikai, and Miyako.
It is widely believed that Japanese are poor at learning English. There is much been ringing over the fact that Japan is outperformed by most countries' nations in English tests, despite the fact that policies have been formed and reformed, and great efforts has been put into English education and promotion. Examining past and present policy regarding English, it becomes clear that there are great contradictions between stated objectives and actual practice. Moreover, it is obvious that English education has been consistently used as an instrument to further economic development, while being held back by a fear of outside ambiguity and contradiction. The focus of policy initiatives that these characteristics are the result result of a conscious effort by policymakers. Language study has been intimately linked with modernization in 1872. Mori suggested Japan adopt English as the sole official language to ensure the commercial success of the nation. Present-day language policies and practices have similar motivations, focusing on commercial over linguistic concerns. This theme continues into the present day. The Make English an Official Language idea. It is floated in 2000 and the next 2003. Action plans are blatant in using economic modernization as a rationale. It appears that the main objective of language learning has become economic competitiveness.
There has been a tension between accommodation to foreign ideas and language, and a repulsion of all foreign influence. Japan's link with the rest of the world are continued theme of the country's history and language planning. The tension between developing these contacts on the one hand and maintaining Japan's unique and identity on the other has long been a factor. Language part of the effort that has gone into foreign language education, individual bilingualism has not been greatly affected by policies. Education policies have been implemented purely for the use of foreign language as a means to knowledge, trade, and internationalization. The various bilingualism proposals have also been predicated in state rather than individual needs and aspiration. Meanwhile, the rights of distinct cultures within Japan have been largely ignored. The current official agenda reveals the underlying political, social, and economic concern of the Japan continues to be concerned about its economic future and has enacted a policy that is open to foreign language to address this. However, the continued practices of English education suggest that Japan is also still wary of foreigners and is still protecting its culture by not carrying out practices that would make foreign language policies effective.
Let's talk about the difference between Japan's language policy and Philippines' language policy. Japan has Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, and Science and Technology or MEXT. Philippines has Department of Education or DepEd, Commission on Higher Education or CHED, and TESDA. In Japan, kindergarten starts at 3 years old and at 5 years old in the Philippines. Japanese spend 240 days in school while Filipinos spend 200 days. Japan's required subjects are Japanese, social studies, mathematics, science, music, arts, PE, and health. Philippines' major subjects are math, sciences, English, Filipino, and social sciences. Japanese school starts at April and end in March. Philippines start at June and end in March. Most Japanese schools run in 3 semesters, while Philippines DepEd states that Philippine system was divided into 4 quarters. Japanese spend 6 years in elementary, 3 for junior high school, and 3 for high school. While in the Philippines, Filipinos spend 6 years in elementary, 4 years in junior high school, and 2 years for senior high school.